How we doing, folks? Your host Moose here, and we've got a little public service announcement before we get into our kind of season one season recap video. It'll be a little bit of a long one. You can see that by just the time of it. You can, click through it as you want. I think it's a lot of fun stuff to go over, so hopefully you watch the whole thing. You do want to stay and tune in to the end, though, because there's some good information about going into next season and some little user impact that we'll give you guys. I had talked about a little bit, but potentially becoming a player in this universe, so be sure to tune into that, and we'll get the video underway. So here we are wrapping up a fast and furious season number 1 that we've wrapped up here on our Pitt Panthers Dynasty, and bowl season has come and gone, so we're going to take a look at the bowl games and really how everything shook out in the NCAA. It's not going to be your typical nice editing, all that fun stuff episode. We're just going to go through live through the bowl results. We're going to go through, award winners, All-Americans. We're going to go through league leaders, all sorts of that stuff, and just see how things panned out for us as a whole. So if we look through bowl season, obviously we played our bowl game in the Chick-fil-A Bowl, or Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, I think it is now, but Chick-fil-A Bowl at the time. 38-21, we came with a victory against Vanderbilt, improved to 12-2. Another bowl games, New Mexico Bowl, New Mexico with a win in their own bowl game. Ohio in the Potato Bowl beat Fresno State. SMU over Boise in the Poinsettia Bowl. Beef O'Brady's Bowl, that's always a fun one. Stanford over Florida Atlantic. New Orleans Bowl, UTEP beat Louisiana Lafayette, who was, albeit kind of a home game for them, but tough loss. Mako Bowl saw San Diego State beat Oregon State. Southern Miss 20-12 over UNLV in the Hawaii Bowl. Nice little vacation for them. Little Caesars Pizza Bowl, Cincinnati over Akron. Kansas State over USC in the Holiday Bowl in San Diego. Military Bowl, Boston College beating Buffalo. Syracuse over the Air Force in the Belk Bowl. Really exciting one there, I'll tell you. Finally, we get a tight battle for once, and this is Tulsa 39-38 over Wake Forest. We'd show you the recap so we could see how things shake out, but as you'll see, it actually gives us the recap now. There we go. So you can see Tulsa with a furious 23-point comeback, including 3 touchdowns in the final 5 minutes to come away with the victory. So that's an unbelievable turnaround for the Golden Hurricane, I believe they are. Mississippi State 17-0 over Louisville, the shutout of Lamar Jackson. So disappointing loss for Louisville in the Russell Athletic Bowl, the former Gator Bowl. But yeah, Mississippi State with a win there. West Virginia 29, Notre Dame 27. Notre Dame touchdowns in the fourth quarter as they tried to come back, but they weren't able to get a 2-point conversion, and as such, just lost by 2 points. Former Pitt Panther Russell Shell in West Virginia with 2 touchdowns there. So we can see Colorado State in the Armed Forces Bowl 29-22 over Middle Tennessee State, so knocks them out of the rankings again. Houston 31 over Arizona State 29, which is fantastic because I hate Fraud Graham in the Fight Hunger Bowl. Former Pitt coach, of course, for only a season. The Alamo Bowl, Washington lost for, I think, the 4th time in their last 5 games. They started 9-0, if I remember correctly, and then lost 4 of their final 5, including this one to Baylor here, 26-20 in overtime. So you can see Washington tied things up late, but Baylor comes away with the win in double OT. Nebraska 13-6 over Oklahoma State in the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl. You'd think a bowl game that, they can rig to make more exciting. At least all the Buffalo Wild Wings commercials lead you to believe that would have a better scoring spree than that. But 13-6 Nebraska. Tennessee in the Music City Bowl beats Virginia Tech. Florida State in finally a high-scoring one here in the Sun Bowl, 42-31. The Sun Bowl is as if you're a Pitt fan, you'll have complete disdain for the Sun Bowl because the Panthers lost 3-0 to Oregon State in the worst Sun Bowl ever played in the history of the world. Liberty Bowl, Western Kentucky beat Auburn 31-24. Gator Bowl here, 31-23. Michigan beating Ole Miss. So 7-5 versus 10-2 or 9-3 at the time. Michigan comes away with a 31-23 win because they scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. So unbelievable there. We won't be able to get to see it, but we can at least see that's what happened. North Carolina Heart of Dallas Bowl obliterates Georgia State 38-14. Texas A&M over Northwestern, the Outback Bowl. Penn State 35-16 over LSU, who was 10-2 in the Capital One Bowl. So Penn State 10-3, not a bad season for them in that particular matchup. Wisconsin, finally we get to the top matchups. Rose Bowl game, Big Ten, Pac-12, always just one of the, the granddaddy of them all, of course, as it's called. Wisconsin 17, UCLA 10, a touchdown in the fourth quarter. We don't know who scored it, but that's what gave Wisconsin the win. Miami obliterates 9-3 TCU, who, I don't know if they deserved a bowl, or I should say a BCS bowl berth, but Miami 49-17 obliterates TCU and goes to 12-1 on the season. All-State Sugar Bowl, Ohio State 31, Georgia 12. So Ohio State, after that lone blemish to Wisconsin, the Big Ten championship game, they take it out against the SEC champion Georgia with a big victory in the Sugar Bowl. Texas in the Cotton Bowl, 17-10 over Florida. Orange Bowl, Alabama 49, Navy 28. So Navy as the group of 5 best team. They were number, I think, 6 in the country for going into this game. They lose, unfortunately, but they put up a good fight. 49-20. It's nothing to shake a stick at. But Bama comes away with the win there. BBVA Compass Bowl, Washington State beat Missouri. Go Daddy Bowl, Western Michigan 12-2 on the season. Good year for them. They beat Arkansas State. And now the game you've all been waiting for. An absolute barn burner. Clemson 55, Oklahoma 52. The national championship decided in quadruple overtime. If you take a look here, let's go through the scoring spree. This is unbelievable. I wish I'd have watched this game, but I mean, it's better that it turned out this way because this is unreal. If you take a look, Baker Mayfield scored. Heigl got a field goal for Clemson. Andrews got a touchdown pass from Baker Mayfield, so it's 14-3 Oklahoma after the first quarter. Second quarter, Oklahoma goes up 17-3, but a Wayne Gallman touchdown cuts the lead until Oklahoma scores with 50 seconds left in the second quarter to go into halftime 24-10. So you thought Oklahoma, being the lone undefeated remaining in the country, would run away with it. Mike Williams gets a pass from Deshaun Watson. Baker Mayfield fights back to Baxter, so it's 17 at that point, still a 2-touchdown advantage, but a huge interception return with 14 seconds to play in the third quarter by Fields is able to give Clemson some life going into the fourth quarter. They tie the game up as Mike Williams catches a pass from Deshaun Watson, his second of the game. Joe Mixon gives Oklahoma the lead back in the fourth quarter, but Wayne Gallman, the touchdown with 58 seconds to play in the fourth quarter, ties the game up and sends it to overtime. And we're only getting started. It's 38-38 at that point. But Oklahoma kicks a field goal. Steed and Heigl, they trade field goals. Heigl and Steed trade field goals yet again. Joe Mixon, the third overtime, triple overtime, 3-yard touchdown run. But Mike Williams with a touchdown pass from Deshaun Watson is able to give them the equalizing score, and they both convert their 2-point conversions. And then Heigl kicks a field goal for Clemson as they had to start with the ball, and then clearly Clemson comes up with either some sort of blocked field goal, turnover, whatever it might be. We'll never know, but you can use your imagination, and they come away with that victory. Unbelievable. We look at the stats here. Players of the game, Mike Williams for Clemson is the most outstanding player of the national championship game. 7 catches, 118 yards, 3 touchdowns. And the Heisman runner-up, Deshaun Watson, a 3-touchdown passing performance. Not his best completion percentage, but enough to get him the win. Gallman with 2 touchdowns as well. So just a fantastic national championship game. Great way to cap the season. And so because of that, with that end of your bowl games, let's take a look at how the final polls shook out. In the coaches poll, obviously, Clemson gets all the votes. The coaches vote with the winner of the BCS championship game. They get number 1. Alabama with their convincing victory over, and this is a surprising one because Alabama was not great all season, and they lost pretty handily to Georgia in the SEC championship game, but they go up to number 2. I would have expected Ohio State, who was just obliterating teams all year, to go up to number 2, especially after their pretty convincing win over Georgia in the Sugar Bowl as well. So I thought Ohio State deserved more respect. I thought they should have been number 2 just based on how their seasons played out. Miami's 3rd. They played in the BCS Bowl. They obliterated TCU, so they really did all they could without making the conference championship game. You're welcome. That's because of us. Oklahoma drops to 4th. I think that's a little ridiculous. I mean, honestly, if you're voting on merit, Oklahoma should be 2. They lost to the team that's the national champion in quadruple overtime. I would think that classifies them as the 2nd best team. But, I'm not a voter. I'm not one of the 61 coaches that has a vote in the coaches poll. So, hey-ho. tough break for them. Wisconsin stays at number 5. Ohio State jumps just up to 6. We jumped up to 7. So your Pitt Panthers, 7th in the nation to end the season here. We're the best 2-loss team in the country. Losing, of course, to Clemson, your national champions, in the ACC championship game by just a touchdown. And we lost to Florida State, who I think was 9-4 on the season. Very good, very competent ACC team. Arguably the fourth best team, I should say, in the ACC. We lost to them in overtime by a field goal. So nothing to shake a stick at. Navy, because of their solid win or performance against Alabama, I should say, only dropped to 8th. Michigan's up to 9th, and Georgia to 10th to round out your top 10. Following that, we got Texas in 11th, Texas A&M in 12th. So little rivalry there. UCLA drops to 13th with their loss. LSU to 14th with their loss. Penn State up to 15th. You'd think with Penn State beating LSU, they should have jumped one spot ahead of the Tigers, but they're happy with that. 15th, it's going to set up an unbelievable matchup at Penn State with the Panthers taking on the Nittany Lions. Your Pitt Panthers heading to State College to take on the Nittany Lions next season. So that's going to be an unbelievable matchup for sure. Both those teams ending on fantastic high notes. Houston 16, Florida State, who we just talked about a little bit, 17 after their bowl win. Southern Miss up to 18, so 11-2, but the weaker conference hurts them there in the Conference USA. Cincinnati 11-3 goes to 19th. TCU drops all the way back to 20th with their big loss to Miami. Baylor into the polls at 21, Kansas State 22, Western Michigan in 12-2, and champions of the MAC, a little bit of action for you, 23. Louisville all the way back to 24 after their loss to Mississippi State, and then New Mexico number 25 at 10-3. And then a little bit of controversy. If you look at the media poll, here's where things get the way they should be. Ohio State, I think the media poll is more reflective of probably what the rankings should honestly be. You can see Clemson's number 1, as you'd expect. Ohio State number 2, kind of like I thought they should be after, they've obliterated teams all season. So they're up to number 2. Wisconsin then to 3. Oklahoma to 4. Alabama, who's 13-1, but not been impressive in really any games all season, to be honest, other than actually the Navy game when they had 49 points for once. They're 5. Miami 6, because they didn't make their conference championship game. They lost to really the one tough opponent they've played all season, other than they beat Florida State, Florida, etc. But those are bottom 20s teams. So Miami 6, Pitt 7. Okay, they got 2 losses. I can see where you'd put them, although I think, again, we should be ahead of Miami because we beat Miami. But you could argue that the Florida State loss drops us down a little bit. Georgia down to 8 with their loss. Michigan 9, Navy down to 10 because their season's probably been a little bit overblown, especially with the fact that they do have 2 losses on the campaign. But Navy 10, Penn State all the way up to 11 with their victory over LSU. So if you look at that now, that Pitt-Penn State game's getting even more juicy. Number 7 versus number 11 if you go based on the media poll. Clemson 12, Texas A&M, LSU back to 14, and pretty much the same teams that we're seeing in the other poll. Western Michigan as high as 21, Louisville back to 25. So I think it's actually the same 25 teams, but just a little bit of variation where they're ranked in the polls. So you guys can compare those, let me know what you thought. So those are how the polls shook out at the end of the season. Your Pitt Panthers, number 7 in both of them. We'll get just an overview here. We went 12-2. Of course, we went to the ACC championship game. We killed it. We were 10-2 on national TV. So for some reason, almost every single one of our games was on national TV, right? Our team leaders, we're going to go over those. We'll go through the team stats and things of that nature. So it's going to be a fairly long video. You got to, give that to me. Actually, this won't be. The next video as we go into the offseason will be a little bit longer. We'll go through the team and compare who we're going to lose and talk about recruits coming in and things like that. But, a fairly good season for us. Lost to number 16 Florida State in overtime, or double overtime, I believe it was. And then we go ahead and lose to Clemson in the ACC championship game. Otherwise, we were killing it. So I'm very happy with the way our season shook out. And because of how well we played, if we take a look, there's going to be a lot of award winners, a lot of All-Americans we're looking at. But first things first, the Heisman campaign. J.T. Barrett won the Heisman. Deshaun Watson was second in the Heisman voting. Obviously, this was finalized before the bowl games were played. J.T. Barrett deserves it. If you look at his stats this season, right, and you'll see he brought in a bunch of awards. He threw for almost 3,000 yards, 40 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, which is just absurdity, okay? And then rushing the ball. He ran for 1,000 yards and had 9 touchdowns. So he basically had 50 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. He might have had a couple of fumbles, I don't know. 3 fumbles. Just an absurd season from JT Barrett. Deserved every accolade that he got. And because of that, you can see if we go to the award winners, not only did he bring in the Heisman, he brought in the Maxwell Award ahead of Greg Ward and Deshaun Watson. Walter Camp Award, again ahead of Greg Ward and Deshaun Watson, goes to JT Barrett. Ben Narek, now this is for best defender in the country, actually went to Matt Galambos, your Pitt Panther, okay, senior linebacker. Maybe he'll go to the show. But 90 tackles, 24 for a loss, 6 assisted tackles, 7 sacks, 3 picks. So fantastic season. It gets a little helped out that our players have high tackle numbers just because the game doesn't do a good job of tracking assisted tackles whenever you play the game compared to when you sim the game. But we had players all over the board here and a lot of secondary guys, and we give up a ton of passing yards. So I think it's a little bit rigged in that regard. But good to see Galambos get some recognition for how well he played this season. Nagurski Award winner in this case, which I think is best in the front 7, if I'm certain here, or best defensive line / linebacker, not secondary. Pinckney, who was second in overall defensive player, wins it. Freshman from Miami, only 77 overall, which is absurd, but he had 6 forced fumbles, 5 sacks, had a pick, 18 tackles for loss, 91 tackles because he had 50 solo tackles, 41 assisted tackles. So 91 tackles, great season from him. Galambos second in the voting. Then we had Caprera there. We had Rory Blair there. So a couple of guys well representing the Panthers. O'Brien, best quarterback, JT Barrett. Luke Falk from Washington State in that pass-happy Mike Leach offense, the air raid, is second. Deshaun Watson, Greg Ward following that up. If we go to best running back award, Mike Weber, redshirt freshman out of Ohio State, put up 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 receiving touchdowns. I'm not going to lie, I think our man, James Conner, got the short end of the stick, because if you take a look at his stats, I mean, you have to factor in that these are the stats after the bowl game. He only had 1 touchdown in the bowl game. 1,300 plus yards, 17 rushing touchdowns, which I'm pretty sure led the country, and he had a receiving touchdown. I think he got a little bit screwed in this one. Leonard Fournette, 15 touchdowns receiving. Maybe Leonard Fournette honestly could have deserved it as well, but I don't think, and you look, Myles Gaskin, 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 receiving touchdowns, and 35 catches, and he was getting yardage, okay? Ito Smith, smaller school, Southern Miss, but a great season. I don't think Mike Weber deserved what he got here, but, you know, he's the award winner for the Walker Award. Unfortunately, Connor didn't win it, but he wins that award in all of our hearts. Biletnikoff, Josh Reynolds, 15 touchdowns, 70 catches. Great season for him. I don't think we had anybody in here. Mr. Superstar John Ross, the Speed Demon. Mackey Award, best tight end. It's Darrell Daniels from Washington, 55 catches, 6 touchdowns. Really good season from him. Scott Orndorff was 8th in the voting. Our tight end, safety blanket, 46 catches and 4 touchdowns. So great year from him. Hopefully we'll see him in the show as well. But Scott Orndorff, great season. Outland Trophy, best offensive lineman, Cameron Robinson. 99 overall player. What do you expect from Alabama? Left tackle, unbelievable player. First round pick, no question about it. Great season from him. Bisnawati, though, 7th in the voting. Awesome to see our left tackle get some recognition as well. And, I mean, look at that facial hair. What a monster. So Bisnawati, good for him. Best center goes to Pat Elflein of Ohio State. Lombardi, best defensive line. This is wild. Juan Price, who, I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's the best defensive end on the Panthers. But I don't even think he had the best season of our defensive ends. He had 35 tackles, 16 for loss, 7 sacks, and a touchdown. Okay, 35 tackles, none assisted, so that's all he had. 16 for loss, 6 sacks, and he had a touchdown because he recovered 2 fumbles and took one to the house. If we come down and take a look here at Rory Blair, 34 tackles, 21 for a loss, though, so even more, 12 sacks. But he didn't recover any fumbles, didn't score a touchdown. I think that touchdown is what put Juan Price over the edge. So I think, you know, he got a little bit lucky there. Garrett Sickles, 9 sacks, 68 tackles, 23 for a loss. So how Juan Price came away with this, I don't know, but I'm ecstatic for him. You can see he's going to be an All-American, Lombardi Trophy winner, our team captain, fantastic player. So our defensive captain, I should say, fantastic player, gets that Lombardi for best defensive line. Best linebacker, Pinckney. We've already gone over him. He wins it over Galambos, who comes in second, unfortunately. But he won the real prize, best defensive player. So who's the real winner here? Jim Thorpe Award for the best defensive back in the country. Jordan Whitehead wins that. So Panthers taking almost a clean sweep of the award chain. We do have some fantastic defensive players. Jordan Whitehead, 92 tackles, 19 for a loss, 4 sacks, forced 2 fumbles, had a pick. I mean, he was all over the field this season. So, unbelievably, forced 2 fumbles, deflected 4 passes, just had a great season. There's no doubt about that. Terrence Webb, how he got second's wild. I mean, he had a touchdown, so that could be part of it. He took a pick 6 to the house. Avonte Maddox, he had a few picks. One was a pick 6. He had 7 interceptions, actually, but he got torched. So it's one of those things that the game doesn't factor it in as well, the fact he got torched. Damar Hamlin, our freshman, though, he deserves it. He was a player that was unbelievable. 46 tackles, 9 for a loss, 4 sacks, forced 2 fumbles, had a pick. I think he broke up 5 passes. Unbelievable season from him. So we had some playmakers on defense, but you know, Ryan Lewis, worst cornerback I've ever seen in my life. It's a shame because he plays hard, he's a great player as far as just, you know, overall pride and how hard he tries, but had a rough season out there. So we hope to improve at corner next season with Hamlin hopefully getting into the starting role. Groza Award, Greg Heigl for Clemson wins it. Chris Blewett for us, 21-24, gets 4th. So great season from Chris Blewett, best last name for a kicker in football. Guy Award, J.K. Scott, interesting name, J.K., comes away with that award for Bama as the best punter in the country. And this was a no-doubter. Quadri Henderson, best kick returner, best punt returner in the country. 2,400 yards just in return game, okay? 4 touchdowns. That doesn't even get into the fact that he had 437 yards receiving. He had 692 yards rushing. That's 1,000 all-purpose yards already. He had over 3,000 all-purpose yards. Let's just say that. It's unreal, which is more than anybody could expect in real life because I didn't take a lot of touchbacks. I gave us the best chance to return the ball back, but he was unreal. Jabril Peppers, we know how good he is, was 4th in the voting, but an unbelievable season for Quadri Henderson in the awards there. And that's going to lead us now, after all the individual awards, let's get some more individual performances. All-Americans, All-ACC, all of that. If we just scroll through briefly, you can pause it and look at a particular player if you want to, but notables, James Conner, first team All-NCAA, so he doesn't win the best running back award, but he's right there in that first team All-NCAA. An unbelievable season for him. A lot of good players in here, especially a lot of guys from Ohio State, Clemson national champions. There's Juan Price, first team All-American for us. Matt Galambos and Mike Caprera, first team linebackers with the freshman Pinckney. Vontae Max, Jordan Whitehead, both are going to be in the secondary first team All-NCAA, and Quadri Henderson is a first team All-NCAA returner. So many first team All-Americans, unbelievable. Second team, we got Biznawati and Dorian Johnson, okay, left tackle, left guard, first team All-American lineman. We had the best offensive line, or best running game in the country, arguably, so you can see where that came from. Rory Blair, second team All-American, he's returning next year, so can't wait to see what he does. As well as, do we have anyone else? You see Ben Boulware of national champion Clemson. Terrence Webb, second team All-NCAA. I don't think that one's deserved, but he's up there. So fantastic for him. And freshman All-NCAA, you're going to see a beautiful player here. Damar Hamlin, cornerback, All-American, first team, all-freshman team. So fantastic to see. And if we go All-ACC, you know it's going to have Panthers all through it. Deshaun Watson, obviously, Wayne Gallman, national champions, Jordan Leggett, etc. But we got James Conner, first team halfback. Jester Weah, the big play man himself, first team All-ACC receiver. Averaged 23 yards a catch and had 10 touchdowns. What a year for him. Biznawati, Dorian Johnson on the offensive line. We got Juan Price, first team defensive end. Galambos and Caprera. Damar Hamlin and Avonte Maddox are your first team corners. Damar Hamlin wasn't even a corner. He was a nickel corner, which is unreal. Jordan Whitehead, Terrence Webb. We had the whole secondary, even though one of our starting corners didn't make it because he was didn't have a good season. Quadri Henderson, return game. Second team, you got Lamar Jackson, quarterback. We got Alex Officer, our center. Buxer and Brian O'Neill. So our whole offensive line was either first or second team All-ACC, which is unbelievable. Rory Blair, left end All-ACC, second team. Tyreek Jarrett, our nose tackle, second team All-ACC. Chris Blewett, our kicker, second team All-ACC, which is fantastic as far as how we were able to play this season. So great to see there. And take a look at the All-Americans. And then we'll give you a final look here. Conference standings, of course. Miami didn't technically win the Coastal. We did, but it screws up the rankings because we have an extra conference game from the ACC Championship. But we were fantastic this year. 550 points for what an offense. Not a great season for our whole division here. You can see a lot of teams struggled in the Coastal. The Atlantic was much more solid. Only one team with a losing record out of that the Atlantic Division. Clemson, of course, dominated, but Louisville, Florida State, Syracuse, Wake, BC, all had very good seasons. All right, now last thing we're going to do here, we're going to take a look at the team stats. We're not going to do a whole recap of the overall, Pitt team, because that'll take a little bit longer. We'll save that for more of an off-season episode, our first off-season episode. We'll probably do 2 off-season episodes, one like a recap of the season with the team, who we're losing, things of that nature, and then the second episode will be new recruits, new depth chart, what the schedule will be, all that fun stuff. So that'll be how we'll handle the offseason. But we'll do some team stats here just to show you how things went down as far as the season. We had the most yardage in the country, so that's unbelievable. As far as total yardage, obviously that's helped out by our return yardage, of course, because if you look at total offensive yards in the country, we were second to Ohio State. So we had the second best offense in the country, which is unbelievable. Fantastic. Maybe Oklahoma might have been a little bit better than us just because of the fact that they had one less game, so you got to factor in stuff like that. But either way, unbelievable offense. Second best in the country as far as total offense. Passing yards, obviously, we're not high up there. You got Washington State. Your air raid type squads are going to be up there, but we're actually pretty high. 3,200 passing yards puts us probably, 13th or 14th in the country as far as total yardage. I don't know where we are on a per game stats, but Nate Peterman the second half of the season was unreal. Rushing yards, Navy's an option attack, so we're going to ignore them. But then you have Ohio State, Air Force, another option attack, San Diego State, and us. I mean, we were killing it as far as rushing yards are concerned. And the big place where it manifests itself, points per game, second highest scoring offense in the country. Obviously, if you want to take a look at any particular team's total stats, just pause the video and you can read it there. Passing touchdowns, only 25, so we're going to be, moderately high on the list, at least going to be top 30 in the country, I'm sure. We're probably tied for 20th or something of that nature in passing touchdowns, but where we killed it, rushing touchdowns. First in the country, 37 rushing touchdowns. James Conner himself had 17. George Aston had 5. Peterman had probably 4 or 5. Quadri Henderson had 6 or 7. I mean, we were just killing it all over the field. Quadri Olson had 1 or 2. Sacks allowed, 32, so not great. I mean, the teams that run the options and the quick attacks probably have a lot less. But we're middle of the pack as far as sacks allowed. I thought our offensive line was fantastic. Actually, we're probably closer to the bottom of the pack as far as sacks allowed. But we had a lot of dropbacks. We ran a ton of plays. First downs, top 10 in the country. Again, just an unbelievable season for us as far as our offense. Historic, and it's the best offense in Pitt history. There's no doubt about that. So hopefully we won't lose our offensive coordinator. That's a big thing to think about there. So if we look at defense, we're just going to focus NCAA aspect of it. We could do ACC if we want, but defensively, we're probably pretty low. We gave up the most yards in the country. Okay, ton of yards. That's because if you look at our pass defense, worst in the country by a country mile. Now, a lot of that was just, we gave up realistic stats. A lot of it is simulation in NCAA these days is not that realistic, because in real NCAA football, teams are giving up 300, 400 yards passing a game. And that's what we were doing. We averaged, I think, 280 against a game, which I think was better than the real Pitt defense in actual life in 2016. So it's not like we did horrible, but just the way the game simulates, it makes us look even worse. So definitely need to improve on that pass defense. Just get some better cover corners in. That's really what we have to do. We don't really need too many more picks. We had 18 on the season, which is going to be high in the country, I think. But we just need to, do a better job as far as, shutting down that passing game. Rushing yards allowed, here's where we did very, very well. We're probably, 12th in the country as far as rushing yards allowed is concerned. Really good rush defense. We got gashed a little bit in the bowl game, and then against, Georgia Tech, this option offense has got a few yards against us, but overall we did fantastically. Total points allowed, we're pretty high. 384, but the thing was, with our offense, with the quality of our offense, we were able to outscore everybody. So the question is, will we be able to do that next season? We're losing some key pieces. Peterman's leaving. Orndoff's leaving. Dantes Ford. We're losing 2 offensive linemen. That's just on the offensive side of the ball, as well as we're losing, I said Orndoff, and we're losing potentially James Conner to the NFL draft. So all those things, those guys could be leaving this year, which would be a huge blow to our offensive attack. So we'll need to improve defensively to counter that. Sacks, we led the country, 58 sacks. Rory Blair, Juan Price, Caprera, Galambos, Jordan Whitehead, everybody was finding ways to get to the quarterback. We brought a ton of pressure, kind of left maybe our corners exposed a little bit. I don't play zone at all, so that could have been part of it, but we got a ton of sacks. Fumbles, only forced 4, or only recovered 4, I should say. We forced a decent amount, but we only recovered 4, which is pretty low. We did have 18 interceptions, though, which is very high in the rankings in the country. So we were able to get the turnovers when we needed them. That was the big thing. We were kind of a bend but not break defense. As far as conversions go, third down conversions, we were tied for 4th in the country with most. 202 third down attempts, though, so also pretty high there. As far as third down conversion percentage, though, we were right at 50%, which is 6th in the country. So 6th best third down conversion. That is a huge reason why we were able to score so many points. When you're converting your third downs, moving the ball down the field, you're going to do very well. We were very good on 4th down as well when we did need to go for it. 13 4th down conversions, pretty high for 18. So we were, I think, 72% on 4th down, which is a very good conversion percentage. Again, I think 15th in the country, very good there. 2 for 2 on 2-point conversions as well, so 100% when we needed to get those 2-pointers. So overall, our conversion percentage, 3rd down, 4th down, 2 points, all fantastic. Red zone, 65 red zone attempts. We scored 46 red zone touchdowns, which is 4th in the country. 13 red zone field goals as well. And I think if you did the math, our red zone touchdown percentage compared to our red zone attempts, much like the Pitt team in real life, might have been the best in the country. If somebody sat here and did the math for all these teams, compared their touchdown to red zone attempts, average, we're probably best in the country, much like the Pitt Panthers were in real life. That's as soon as we got inside the 20, you knew we were going to score. We had the likes of George Aston, James Conner, Quadri Henderson. We could throw so many different angles of attack at you that you knew we were getting in the end zone. Not a ton. I think, how many red zone field goals did we have if we look at this? 13, so not a ton, but middle of the pack, high part of the pack actually. But our red zone offensive percentage, best in the country, aside from Arkansas, who only had 29 red zone attempts, and they were 15 for 29 as far as touchdowns are concerned. They got a lot of field goals. We're 90%, and we're still putting up like 70% touchdowns, which is just absurdity in the red zone. Defensively in the red zone, 73% of the time would we get scored on, which is actually very good. You compare our 90% offensive proficiency in the red zone, we're 73% in the defensive red zone, which puts us top third of the nation for sure. Probably top quarter if we look at it this way. Very good there. There was teams that were giving up 90% of their red zone attempts were getting scored on. So very good as far as that's concerned for us in the red zone. Least penalized team, that's the nature of playing every game, and just NCAA doesn't call a ton of penalties. Our turnover differential was okay. It's going to be hard finding us here. We're going to sort by interceptions. Let's go takeaways here. How many takeaways? Nope. I'm just trying to find us here on the list so we can compare. So our turnover differential was 5. So if we do a nice little sort action here, best was Syracuse at 16. So if we scroll down, find ourselves at 5. We're actually in the top third of the country. We're pretty solid in turnover differential. That tells you there's a lot of negative teams or even teams. We had 17 giveaways, 11 picks from Peterman, 6 fumbles lost. We had 22 takeaways, 18 picks for our defense, 4 fumbles recovered. So we want to get some strips going, that's for sure. We want to make sure we take care of the ball very well. We're going to have a brand new quarterback leading the team, so that's going to be a big thing we want to pay attention to next season. But we did pretty well as far as that's concerned. So overall, I mean, an unbelievable season for us. There's no doubt about that. We'll give you a little teaser that we are going to check out the season stats in the next episode, because it's going to be kind of a Pitt recap episode, tell you who's leaving senior-wise, who's maybe going to the draft, things of that nature. We'll also give you a little sneak preview of the recruits that we're bringing in. That'll probably be the very end of the next episode, will be all the recruits that we're bringing in, so that you guys can go ahead and shoot yourself out there as far as players that you want to be, because I'm going to give you the option of becoming one of our signings. Basically, there's 1 or 2 guys that I pretty much have locked down that I'm not going to let anybody become, because I have plans for them, or they're real people. But everybody else is fair game, and I'll give you the option. You can choose their number, name, what they look like, what kind of gear they use, things like that. We're not going to change ratings, obviously, but we'll give you that opportunity. I think that'll be more fun than making you a recruit that I have to try and recruit, because if I don't sign you, you're going to be upset, you're going to be sad you're not on the team. So I think this is a cool option to let you guys become somebody that we're bringing into the program and see how well you can do. I'm not going to show any favoritism to anybody. If you're a good player, you're going to be a good player. You're going to get a chance to perform with the team. But that is how much fun I've been having with this particular career mode. Obviously, recruiting will be in the next episode, kind of a review of the season from a Pitt perspective as opposed to just an overall NCAA perspective. But as always, guys, it's been a little bit of a long video. I've rambled on because I love just talking about how things have portrayed out. I hope you tuned in for the whole thing. I hope you caught this end part here. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the support so much on Season 1, and I'm super excited to get into the offseason, get into Season 2, and get things going for you guys. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, hashtag H2P. Hail to Pitt, baby. We'll see you soon. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.